Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now. Monday, April 24th, Ian Cameron and Alex B. Smith with you, ready to break down the Monday NHL Stanley Cup playoffs card. 4 games on tap, 4-game 4 matchups. We'll get to those momentarily. But first, we'll look back on a busy Sunday, a fun Sunday, an exciting Sunday. I loved what the NHL did, quite honestly. As far as the schedule is concerned, you started the day at 1 p.m. Eastern, and you basically had one game after another right until midnight when that Kings and Oilers game finally ended. So it was a great quadruple header. It started with a very impressive performance on the road by the Carolina Hurricanes yesterday afternoon to take control of their series against the New York Islanders. Now go up 3-1 with a very convincing defeat over the Islanders yesterday. Very impressive was Carolina in terms of their defensive play. They capitalized on an early power play. Islanders, again, penalty trouble got to them, and it ended up costing them. And the Carolina Hurricanes now 1 win away from a first-round victory against the Islanders after a 5-2 win last night. Aho, Natchez, Seth Jarvis, all playing strong games for the Hurricanes. Slavin on the back end, blocking a ton of shots, good defensive positioning. And then, of course, a solid game in net from Antti Raanta. And again, with the Islanders, it's just a couple of breakdowns here and there have ended up being costly for them, and not enough from some of the key players that they expected a lot from. Anders Lee has had a quiet series when you look at it. There's been some Brock Nelson, I think, has been pretty good, but you need some more from some of the other forwards, including, of course, Bo Horvat, who finally did score late in that game, but it was kind of like a garbage time goal. It's like if you score a basket in an NBA playoff game when you're down 22 points. It's like, who cares? And that's what it felt like with Bo Horvat scoring late in that game. Like, who gives a shit? You haven't done anything here in this series so far. With your first goal, but game was already lost. So, but they need more from a lot of their key offensive players, and that's always the issue with the Islanders. It's sometimes they just don't score enough. And sadly for Alex and I, the dream dies yesterday as far as the home team winning every game. That correct series win order prop ends up biting the dust yesterday afternoon with that Carolina Game 4 win. Florida-Boston, another series where the road team seized control. The Boston Bruins defeating Florida up 3-1 in the series. A nice solid road victory. Linus Ullmark was immense. Florida really actually at times in that game were really taking the play to Boston. But again, a bend but don't break mantra from the Bruins. Defensively, they held up. They got the puck out. I thought their penalty kill was outstanding once again yesterday. It's just so impressive that with Boston as a team defensively, all the forwards back check. They're always got active sticks. The defensemen in the zone are just, rotating around constantly to make sure they dive at loose pucks all over the place on the penalty kill. It really is an all-out effort thing when you watch the Bruins play defense, and especially when you see them operate on what is the number 1 penalty kill in the NHL this season. It's just fun to watch. Everybody's committed to the defensive end of the ice. Every single member of the Bruins. And that's why they're tough to score on. And it sure as hell helps when Linus Ullmark plays a great game, and he did that again. It got very chippy toward the end. It got very rough. In fact, Matthew Tkachuk poking around Linus Ullmark's kitchen and cave just a little bit too much, and Ullmark lost it. He was ready to throw down at that moment in the game. Goalie gloves off, took the mask off. He was ready to go. He had just about enough of Matthew Tkachuk toward the end of that game, as Florida, as you would expect, not in a good mood, losing that game, probably losing the series in the process, going down 3-1. So the kind of frustration basically was coming out of the Florida Panthers toward the end of that game with the cross-checking and the physical play and the nasty stuff after the whistle toward the end of that game. But no, I mean, Boston, again, no excuses from them ever. They once again, in a game where Bergeron and Krejci, their top 2 centers, didn't play, they found a way to get the job done. And the Florida Panthers now up against it. And you know what really hurts Florida too is not only did they not get enough offensive punch going yesterday, But at the same time, they missed Aaron Ekblad. There's no question about that. He was a late absence for Game 4 yesterday. And when you take Aaron Ekblad off that blue line, man, it really does some significant – it really hurts in terms of that 6 blue liners that Florida can put out there. It means all of a sudden you've got to give more minutes to guys you really don't want to give more minutes to. And I'm talking about, Casey Fitzgerald and Josh Mahura, your bottom pair defenseman. Gudas has to play more. An aging Mark Stahl suddenly has to play a lot more minutes. So it ended up being a really tough spot for Florida on the back end without Aaron Ekblad. Montour's had a great series, but I think you can say other than that, Gus Forsling has been a disappointment in this series. I thought with the way he played down the stretch to get Florida in the playoffs, he could carry that over, and he's had a bit of a rough series on the blue line for Florida as well. And then without Ekblad, just too much to overcome against a team like the Boston Bruins, who now have a chance to close out the series in Game 5 on Wednesday night. It's actually a 2-day break in this series. They won't get back in action until Wednesday night in Boston for Game 5. And Mikey, our good friend on Twitter, has been on this show a bunch of times and on our betcast. He made a great point. Why rush Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci back for Game 5? Why do it at this point? They don't need to. I think that you've shown you can handle Florida without these guys. You're probably going to close out the series anyway Wednesday night. Give them that extra rest. Give them that extra opportunity to heal, and have both Bergeron and Krejci as good a shape as possible physically for what obviously would be a very tough second-round series against either Toronto or Tampa Bay. So I think that's the way to play it. There's no need to rush these 2 guys back into the lineup right now for Game 5 in Boston. And by the way, I mentioned this on Twitter too about Tkachuk. I thought Steph Curry had the biggest problem with chewing on his mouthpiece all game. No, it's worse with Tkachuk. It's 10 times worse. He never fucking stops. Like the whole fucking hockey game. Whistle, or even when the whistle's going or when the play's going on, he's got that damn thing going at all times, chewing on the mouthpiece there all game long. I mean, it's nonstop with Matthew Tkachuk. He's actually topped. He's managed to somehow outdo Steph Curry in that department, which I thought was pretty difficult to do, and he's somehow managed to do it. Alex, your thoughts on the 2 games in the afternoon from the East?
Yeah, that's an interesting point you make about Tkachuk with the mouthpiece, because a lot of guys I know, they chew on them for nerves. Some guys chew on them just to help them breathe a little bit better. But clearly, he seems like he may be more of the on edge type, obviously, with the style of game that he plays. But like I said, great seeing that kind of animosity and playoff hockey intensity. Linus Ullmark trying to scrap with Tkachuk, and I was a little nervous about that, because at one point it looked like when he gave up a goal, it's like, is this guy even going to start next game? He just, he has these moments where he looks like completely stiff and out of sorts, and then all of a sudden now here he is bouncing around trying to fight somebody. So Omar needs to kind of calm it down a little bit. But I love seeing the intensity overall from both teams. That's what this time of year is all about. And this is a great spot, like you said, for Boston right now. You get days off. Let you guys rest. Like I said, don't need to rush Krejci back. Don't need to rush Bergeron back. You can take care of business at home, wrap this thing up, and give yourself – we're talking probably about it'll be a week almost before, or at least 6 days between if they win Game 5 and then move on to start Game 1. And chances are hopefully you're looking at playing a Toronto or Tampa Bay team that's gone through 6 or 7 games. So you put yourself in a great spot if you're the Bruins right now. Just go home, rest, get ready, and take care of business in a big way on Wednesday night. As far as Isles Canes goes, it's really sad, obviously, to see the home trend come to an abrupt halt. And like I said, I didn't feel comfortable in Carolina winning, because I didn't expect to see that kind of a bad performance and just sloppy performance from the Islanders. Lack of scoring, sure, they do that all the time, win or lose. But to see them, like I said, the uncharacteristic, just dumb penalties. Not even just they're getting teams are out skating them and they're having to hold on and grab guys and they're catching penalties like that. No, they're just boneheaded plays. And, like I said, this is a team that did not look like a championship level team. They were not the same Islanders from the years past that made it to the conference finals and gave Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh and all these other teams tough runs. And, now we're seeing the stronger team moving forward. And it looks like this might be curtains by Game 5. So, we'll be getting into that elimination mode. We'll be looking for those third period overs. That's definitely a game that, and we'll talk about it more, but third period overs usually nowadays have become more of a live wager because of the adjustments made and the higher scoring. But with that low total in that series, you might actually be able to make a pregame wager on that third period over. It's something we'll be checking on.
Yeah, no doubt. It's definitely keep an eye on this as the elimination games approach. So do the third period over opportunities, although the opportunities aren't as great as they used to be because there's been adjustments. And a lot of times now, I remember years ago, it was over 1.5 third period, even in elimination games, like minus 130 or minus 140. You're never going to see that these days. You're going to often see 2.5 now with some of these third period overs. But still doesn't mean you can't cash some of them. In the West, wow, was the West ever exciting last night? Let's start in Minnesota, Alex's backyard there with the Minnesota Wild and the Dallas Stars. I have never been as upset and disappointed in a hockey team's performance in a team's victory, and especially when I bet them, as I was last night with the Dallas Stars. I didn't think they played that great, to be honest, at all. For a team that was down 2-1 in this series after the game 3 against Minnesota, where definitely in that game they did not play well. I expected a bigger pushback from them. And yeah, they won the game, but the shots were actually pretty close in that hockey game. And it was definitely better than game 3, but I expected a lot better in game 4 compared to game 3 for Dallas. And I didn't get it, I thought they were markedly better in some spots, but it wasn't this resounding, yeah, we're really going to seize control and we're going to show Minnesota we're the better team in this series. And then sure enough, even when they got up 2 goals, there's Minnesota making it a 1-goal game late, and the Stars got to hang on for dear life, and they need yet another bailout save in the final seconds from Jake Ottinger to hang on for the victory. I didn't love what I saw from Dallas. I thought they could have been a lot better than they were, but they won, kind of like Toronto in game 3 against Tampa Bay on Saturday night. They were outplayed, Toronto, in that game, and they still won. Kind of like last night with Dallas. They were outplayed at times, but at the end of the day, who cares? You won a playoff game, and you're one step closer to winning the series, a game they had to have, tie it up 2-2, now a best of 3 as the scene shifts to Dallas. I will say this, Ben was better. Seguin was a lot better. Of course, he got 2 goals for the Dallas Stars. I'm still not seeing enough out of Jason Robertson. I mean, it's just, to me, he still didn't bring his game up to another level the other night. And again, we've talked about how he misses Pavelski. There's no question about that. The odd man rushes and the breakaways that Dallas allowed last night in that game was unacceptable. You can't give up 6-7 odd man rushes like that. And that's what they did last night against Mid. They're very fortunate. Ottinger was absolutely spectacular. Okay, that was Jake Ottinger, game 7 against Calgary level. Jake Ottinger last night. He was that good. He was spectacular. He was on top of everything. The only pucks that beat him were broken plays. A puck that was knocked down, it landed on the stick of Klingberg, and he had a nice shot. The broken play, I think it grazed the post and sat right down there for the second Minnesota goal with the net empty late in the third. I mean, the only goals that beat Ottinger last night were broken plays. He had no shot, none, zero, to stop any of those. But he was phenomenal. He was on his angles. He made some incredible acrobatic saves, athletic saves last night. He was seeing the puck well. Post-to-post movement was spectacular. He was phenomenal, and he needed to be for Dallas to win that game. So, but again, they won. I thought they could have played a lot better, but at the end of the day, they won. I'll tell you who didn't win. Fans of good officiating in that game last night. Look, I like Dallas in the game. I was hoping Dallas won. Had Alex in the same boat as well. But if you think that first Marcus Foligno penalty in the second period was a penalty, that was a complete disgrace. That was absolutely awful. That's a body check, for crying out loud. It's a body check. It's a physical hit along the boards, clean. And that was called a penalty in that hockey game last night. And I have just been sick to my stomach with the officiating in this first round. It's not been good enough. Across the board, it has not been good enough at all. And the standard has fallen to a level that really, really frightens me moving forward. That we're now calling a physical hit, a big physical hit now. We're at that point now where we can't even look at that kind of a hit and think to ourselves, wow, maybe is this going to be called a penalty? That's where we're at right now. Like, we see a good, solid, physical hit and body check along the boards, and we can't even see that shit anymore in the Stanley Cup playoffs without wondering maybe this is going to be a penalty. It's ridiculous. It's totally absurd. And it is becoming a bigger problem right now with what we're seeing here in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And to be quite honest with you, I think Foligno had a little bit of a gripe on the other penalty that was called in the third period that led to the Seguin goal. in that one a little bit. I don't think it was as egregious as the first, but the first one was pathetic. Okay, pathetic.
Yeah.
It was Foligno throwing a good, solid physical body check, hit along the boards. There is no way that's a penalty. That was, and 30 years ago, people would have been just ranting and raving even more. But I think the reason why, today's day and age, we're becoming accustomed and tuned into this softer version of hockey. Let's be honest. I mean, we're heading down that rabbit hole, unfortunately, and it's not fun for people like me and Alex that have been growing up and watching this sport for 30 years that remember to take no prisoners and just absolute trench warfare. And we're getting robbed of that now because now we can't even watch a good, solid physical hit and body check that Foligno laid in that game last night. And now we got to ask ourselves, oh, that might be called a penalty. And that is a very, very frustrating feeling to have for a longtime hockey fan that wants to see playoff games, let the players play, put the whistles away, don't call this ridiculous shit. And unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of it called in these playoffs. It's been still a good first round. The hockey has been phenomenal. I like seeing the animosity. We've seen a lot of scrums. We've seen a lot of fights so far in this first round. But my gosh, the penalty calls have been atrocious, some of them, and it's got to stop. Cut it out across the board. The standards got to improve. Not good enough. If I'm the commissioner of the NHL right now, and I don't know if Bettman's doing this, probably not, but if I'm the commissioner right now, I'm doing an emergency call right now with all my referees, and I'm saying, get your head out of your asses and start doing a better fucking job out there, collectively, all of you. Alex, what did you think of that game?
Gary Bettman's had his own head up his ass since Clinton was in office, so he's definitely not doing that. So, but you're right. Here's the thing: it's you're right and wrong here. Okay, you're right about what's happening with the game. And this movement of softness or whatever you want to call it, that's spot on. But this particular series is being over officiated for the fact that they are just anticipating nastiness based on what we saw from game one. This is an isolated series incident. Okay. Yes, we've had bad officiating in all the series so far, and that needs to be rectified. But this particular situation is just the referees. It's if they feel like a bench clearing brawl is going to jump out as soon as there's a blowout in the series, and it's not. So they're the ones panicking, as far as I'm concerned, about this particular series. And maybe that was some kind of a league memo or what have you, or they're hearing something on the ice that we aren't catching. But that's the way that I've been seeing these calls and why everything's so ticky-tack in this particular series. That Foligno hit behind the net was not even close to a penalty. But the second hit, and here's the thing, Marchment had the wherewithal to move out of the way, but if he gets the full brunt of that hit, he's getting crushed, okay, into the door most likely. That's going to probably be called a 5-minute major and reviewed. Hopefully it would have been rescinded because it wasn't any super malicious intent, but it was a charge, and they called it a trip. He took 3 strides and left his feet. That's charging. I looked it up in the rule book because I look up the rules, and I've known the rules because I've been watching this game since I was a little kid. They called it tripping. The fact that they're getting calls wrong on top of calling things too tight, it's a problem. And I don't understand if you're talking to the coaches before the game, right? And you let them know it's the same thing that happens in baseball. It happens in every sport, right? Where, listen, we understand what's going on in the series, but let's just, let's tone it down. We don't want anything to get completely out of hand, right? And neither does any other team want shit to get out of hand because they're trying to win games. They're not trying to get everybody kicked out of the game like we've been seeing all these different misconducts and different shit. You got guys that are in line. If they get thrown out again, they're going to be fined and suspended potentially. Like that's insane. We don't want the game to be like that. But at the same time, the referees have to relax. Like I said, this is playoff hockey. It's going to get physical. It's going to get tough. But pay attention as well. Like, get the calls right. Like, and everybody's like, oh, that shouldn't have been a penalty. Yes, that should have been a penalty on Foligno because it was a charge. And he did hit him. He didn't crush him like he wanted to. If he did, we'd be talking about the same shit we're talking about with Dumba and Pavelski from game one. So, yeah, the refs need to get it together. But like I said, this series is a little bit more isolated because of that Pavelski.
There's no question. We've seen so many poorly officiated games. The crew that did LA Edmonton game 3 with the controversial overtime goal for LA was the same crew that did Dallas Minnesota last night. The same Garrett Rank, and I'm not sure who the other guy was, but it was the same 2 guys that did the Kings and Oilers game 3, and they were a disgrace, that pair, in that game, the way they officiated it. And then the same thing last night with Dallas. That's a pair that's like, okay, enough, sit down. Read the rule book because clearly you didn't or you don't or something. These two guys in particular, it's time to, set them down. You don't suspend them, but you sit them down and you say, hey, you're not getting on the ice again to officiate another fucking playoff game until you read the rule book, start to finish, front to back, and figure out what should be called and what shouldn't be called. Because there's not enough referees, I think, that know what the fuck the rule book is and what should be called and what shouldn't be called anymore. And you're right. Alex B. Smith, my colleague's reading the rule book more than I'm sure some of these fucking refs do. That's a problem. I really do believe that. That's a big time problem right now. And one game to the next. Look at the friggin' goal situations too. What's called a goal and what's not a goal? How is the Braden Point goal wiped away Saturday night in the Tampa-Toronto game? But the very similar play that we saw with Boston, Florida yesterday involving Marchand is a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the consistency?
Yeah.
Where the hell is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's again, this is an issue. You cannot watch a playoff game anymore. Hell, a regular season game, but now, especially a playoff game now, where you wonder, is that goal going to be allowed or not? Because it was allowed in one game, but I've also seen it not allowed in another game. We've got issues right now, okay? Serious issues in the officiating department. I don't know if that's going to be a hit that gives me a 2-minute penalty, hell, a 5-minute penalty, or it may not be a penalty at all. Like, you could actually see a hit now and think that should be 5-minute major, get him out of the game. And yet you could also see maybe another crew not give a single penalty, not even a minor, a 2-minute penalty for it. We got problems, serious issues right now with officiating, lack of consistency, lack of knowing the rule book, lack of understanding that physical, hard-hitting hockey should still be in the game, and yet it's not being adjudicated that way. It's an issue.
Yeah.
So that's
here's the other. And
I had to get it off my chest. It's been bothering me this whole weekend, what I've seen, all this shit with the officiating.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. The fact that you don't even see it mentioned in the chat about double minors. Why does everything that is significant enough go from just automatically a minor of 2 minutes to a major of 5 in a game misconduct? Like, why are we now elevating it from just 0 to 60 in that aspect? What happened to giving out double minors? What happened to just having a 5-minute major without throwing somebody out of the fucking game? Like, police the game. Like, getting rid of somebody doesn't change anything. You think, because you kick the one guy out that nobody else is going to step up and do the same kind of shit? Like, it's asinine to have that thought process. And okay, fine, you're trying to make sure that things aren't unbalanced. Well, if one team's taking more penalties than the other, then the shit's unbalanced because they're the ones making it unbalanced. It's not your referee's job to balance shit out. It's your job to call the game as you see fit according to the rule book.
I was already starting to really get worried and concerned about the poor officiating in this first round of the playoffs last week. But then Saturday and Sunday's games happened, and Friday night with the debacle in LA as well. And I'm starting to think to myself, and then I said, wow, it's actually getting worse after what I've seen here the last few nights. And another thing too about and you mentioned that now with a 5-minute penalty call, you can review it and decide, okay, does it stay a 5-minute penalty call in the game misconduct, or do you rescind it to just 2 minutes, or do you just say not a penalty at all, which they can do now for a 5-minute major? What I don't understand is you can review a 5-minute major penalty call, but that's it. You can't review it. You actually have to upgrade that's what they did with Riley on point Saturday night in the Tampa game. They only made it 5 minutes on Riley at the beginning so they could review it, because if they had kept it at 2 minutes, 2-minute minor, they wouldn't have been able to go to review, to look at it. How stupid is that?
It's ridiculous.
Why don't you just make it reviewable across the board? 2-minute penalty, 4-minute penalty, 5-minute. You might as well. I think it's totally asinine that, we can only review it if we make it a 5-minute penalty, even though you're going to rescind the damn thing when it's all said and done. Like, where's the logic there? Why don't you just, hey, it's a big hit. We saw Point get injured. Who cares? 2, 4, 5 minutes. I don't give a flying fuck. You review it anyway because it's that important to get it right. But it shouldn't matter how many minutes it is, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 2 minutes, review it.
Yeah.
What's the big deal?
There should be an entire separate committee. Just like you have every goal reviewed in Toronto, there should be an entire separate room strictly for penalties. Yep.
And I think we're getting there. I really do. And I think the one thing about this competition committee is they've made some tweaks, and a lot of them I've agreed with. It's time to really, accentuate officiating and streamlining this process across the board right now. And we'll see if they're able to do that in the offseason. And then we wrap up with the craziest game of the day. Edmonton and LA, what is there to say about this game? I mean, Twitter is just lighting up the Edmonton Oilers after that first period, and rightfully so. That first period was a disaster for the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, giveaways, breakdowns defensively. They were outcompeted. They lost every puck battle. I mean, the way the third goal was scored by Kopitar, nobody could find the puck. There were how many Oilers out on the ice at that time, and nobody could find the puck for them against the Kings there. And then all of a sudden there's Kopitar. And of course Skinner's shocked that all of a sudden none of his teammates saw a puck that was clearly available there. Kopitar grabs it, makes a beautiful move to beat him, and 3-0 LA. And at that moment we're thinking, my gosh, are the Edmonton Oilers done in this series? And I have to give them a ton of credit because to be able to just chip away like that. And I said it on Twitter after that first period, Alex, Jay Woodcroft is not a screamer. He's not a rant and rave guy. He is not a kick garbage cans in the dressing room and throw shit at the wall in the dressing room during the intermissions when his team's playing bad. That's not his MO. That's not his style. That's not his personality. But man, if there was ever a time to break character and do something like that out of the norm, it would have been after that first period debacle for the Edmonton Oilers. Now, I don't know what was said, and he said in the press conference after the game, Jay Woodcroft last night, that, I said some things, they kind of said some things, but I have a feeling he did a lot of the talking. He just, did. But I think for the first time, he kind of went postal on his team, because if you watched Edmonton from the rest of that game after that, it was a different team. And in the second period, they were swarming LA. And it didn't shock me at all they had tied the game, because they had the puck in the LA zone entirely. LA got into penalty trouble. Another game with too many penalties called. What else is new? And it ended up being Edmonton coming back to tie the game 3-3. LA looked like they had seized momentum back 4-3. And I got to give Jack Campbell credit, and credit Woodcroft too for making the switch. They pulled Skinner in the first period, not all his fault, and obviously, and went to Campbell. But Campbell had to make a couple huge stops when it was 4-3 LA in the third period, including a huge pad save on Arvidsson with like 6 minutes to go. That really might have put the game away. Next thing you know, 2 minutes later, Evander Kane with a beautiful release on a wrist shot to beat Korpisalo, who was again phenomenal last night, to tie the game. And then in overtime, the Oilers get the job done and get the overtime winner courtesy of Zach Hyman. And great to see for him, because, I've been critical of him and Nugent Hopkins and a lot of these secondary players for the Oilers not doing enough in this series. And what a time to come alive for Zach Hyman. And I ended up jumping in on a couple OT goal scorer player props, which I've started to do here in some of these overtime games. FanDuel, among other places, posts goal scorer props for overtime. And I had a little piece of Hyman at 12-1 to score that overtime winner last night. So that was great to see. Yeah, Vinny Desharnais had a brutal go of it on that second Edmonton goal or LA goal, I should say, for Edmonton. So him being benched, I can see why that happened. It was not a good night for him, for the Edmonton Oilers. But credit to them for coming back. And, I don't know if Dave Tippett's the coach, if they pull this comeback off. I really don't, because I think Jay Woodcroft's temperament, his ability to adjust in game, change things up, I think that played a great role. And I love this quote, Alex, about a couple gem quotes from Jay Woodcroft in his press conference. He's one of the best guys to listen to, because he just gives you so much. He almost gives you too much when he's talking to the media after the game, just because he's so, very, very charismatic. And he just gives you a lot in terms of info and what he's thinking. And he says, our mindset is to continue pounding on that rock until it splits. I love that quote. And then the one he said about Evander Kane and Zach Hyman, who, of course, scored the tying goal and the game-winning goal, respectively, after a quiet start to the series. He says, quote, "They put hard miles on the opponent's D-core. Our belief is that if you do things harder and longer than the other team over time, all those good things accrue. It's like a bank account. You keep investing in that bank account, and eventually you get rewarded." And that's basically his analogy to, I'm investing in Evander Kane. I'm buying stock in Evander Kane. I'm buying stock in Zach Hyman. I'm not giving up on these guys. We're just going to keep playing them. They're going to find their way. They're great players. And man, did they ever pick a great time to step up last night, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. Like I said, that's why you have the secondary scoring. It's about balance. And I was talking about this earlier, saying, okay, well, yeah, the secondary scorers chip in, but you still got to have the primary scoring there too. That's what makes the secondary scoring. So now, like I said, just having everybody incorporated, and it takes time, it takes effort. and this is just the motion of the series too. I think teams have to kind of settle in and understand that this is just the type of series they're playing right now. Like no one has held a lead. We see multi-goal leads blown in all 4 games so far. That's just the way it's going to be. So you have to play sometimes to the tempo of the series. And that's the other adjustment. You have to adjust with yourself. You have to adjust with your opponent, but you also have to adjust with how the series is flowing. And I think that's what's going to determine who wins this series now at this point. Which teams can make adjustments to how the flow of the series is going to be, and that leans more towards Edmonton because they just have that kind of offensive talent. But at the same time, the goaltending's questionable. We talked about it off air about who should they go with next, and I'm thinking, maybe the Oilers would ride with Campbell. I think of Scott Darling in 2015, right? Came in a similar spot. Crawford looked like crap in game 1. They were down 3-0. Darling comes in, winning in double overtime after coming back to tie the game, plays a few more games, but he doesn't even finish the series out. Go back to Crawford. Crawford wins the cup. Maybe this is where Campbell can, at the same time, build his momentum for his team, build some confidence for himself, obviously, in playing well. He looked good in the spots when he came in, and give Skinner a much-needed rest because, yes, this is a young goalie who has played the most minutes of his career. He shouldn't be completely fatigued, Gustafsson. But, at the same time, give him a little bit of a rest and a break. He hasn't been in this spot before. So having Campbell be in this spot, maybe you start Campbell and roll with the consequences of win or loss there, and then you go back to Skinner, rested and with some energy and kind of refocused a bit. I think that might be the way to go if I were Jay Woodcroft.
Yeah, and the debate is going to begin, obviously, now, clearly after a game like that is who is going to end up being who is going to end up being in net for game 5 and beyond. So it's going to be interesting to see who it is. But I made the case for Skinner to once again be the goalie in game 5, just because, he's been their guy in net for most of the season, especially the second half. He hasn't played that poorly in this series. And look, the whole team stunk in the first period last night. Can't put it all on put all the blame on Stuart Skinner. So I think he's earned himself still one more shot or another shot to bounce back from that. For as great as Campbell was, 28 shot saves on 29 shots? He was
Yeah.
That was as good as Jack Campbell's played all year for sure. I think you don't bail out on Stu Skinner just yet. Give him another start, see what happens.
And that's right. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I feel like, don't bail out. I wouldn't, if Campbell gives you 35 saves and a shutout, I still would go back to Skinner for the next game. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm saying, and I think that's where people are kind of saying, they automatically think if we go to the second goaltender, it's a controversy, because you've seen what happened in Minnesota, and in other places. No, this isn't a controversy. This is proper usage of having 2 goaltenders. Basically what we've seen in Boston as well and a couple other teams. So I think going to Campbell doesn't necessarily mean the end of Skinner or just ride with Campbell if it's played that way. But the media is going to grab onto that and just blow it up and say, oh, now we have a goalie controversy, when really it doesn't have to be, nor should it be.
No, exactly. It's just, and by the way, we're now in the day and age in the NHL where you need 2 good goalies, especially if you're, and be able to rely on one when one's maybe not playing well, or when you just need a momentum switch, which is what Edmonton needed after that first period. You can put in the other goalie and get that kind of, spark for your team. And that's what you need now this day and age for sure in the playoffs. 2 good goalies at your disposal. All right, let's go to tonight's card. We've got 4 games on tap. We'll begin with the New Jersey Devils, New York Rangers, Game 4, Madison Square Garden. Rangers still up 2-1 in this series. Rangers minus 150 home favorites here in Game 4. 5.5 the total in this game. Look, give the Devils credit for a really, really solid performance in Game 3 of this series. Backs against the wall, going on the road, a very, very tough situation for them. But, Dougie Hamilton said it after they won Game 3 on Saturday. It's that, they were a team that, thrived on the road, played their best hockey on the road all season long. So I think when you look at this situation here for the Devils, I give them a puncher's chance to tie this series tonight. But I also look at that game and say, you know what? The Rangers still had, a bunch of chances at their disposal to win that game the other night. They definitely were in a situation where they had their opportunities. New Jersey played better, I think, team defense. I think you look at the goaltending, certainly from Akira Schmid, and look, it gave them the spark that they were hoping for. on Saturday night, and to get that first win of the series. I thought Jack Hughes played one of his best games of the series for sure. I mean, he only had really a few little flashes here and there, the 2 games in Jersey, but you suddenly look in Game 3 on Saturday night. He scores the key goal to tie it. It was just much more noticeable in the offensive zone, and it was just very, very impressive to see that, no doubt. So interesting to see now if the Devils can keep it going following that victory the other night. I think it's going to be a lot tougher, obviously, because you're talking about a New York Rangers team that is going to know that they probably could have won that game on Saturday night when you look at it. And also, I think one of the things too to keep in mind is that the New York Rangers had a bunch of chances. Schmid held the fort. The power play suddenly, which had been so good in the first 2 games of this series, was not so good suddenly in the Game 3 loss. But a chance to bounce back. Again, it wasn't like the New Jersey Devils were overly convincing in that victory in Game 3. It was a better performance from their goaltender, a better team defensive effort, better penalty kill. All of those things led to the victory. But at the same point in time, I think it's a situation here. We're going into this game tonight against the Rangers. The Rangers will have a good pushback. It's not like they were much the inferior team in Game 3. So, yeah, I like the Devils on Game 3. I'm leaning the other way here, honestly, right now in Game 4 tonight. But I don't love the price, I'll be honest, minus 150. I think, if I'm going to get involved with the Rangers in some form tonight, it would be the -1. Is the way I would go, and or split it between the -1 and the regulation price, because I always am leery of overtime games in the playoffs, and I wouldn't want the entire stake of the wager to be on the regulation price. But what I'll probably end up doing is a split between Rangers plus 102 in reg and Rangers -1, which is at a pretty nice plus 135 here in this game, and obviously a better price than say the -150. With them for the full game money line. So that's the way I'm going to approach it. As far as the total goes, look, I've been on the overs in this series. The total has stayed consistent at 5.5. We finally saw an under in Game 3, but I think we kind of get back to more of that pace-driven style of play. We get back to more offense here in this game. And again, for as good as Schmid and the Devils team defense was in Game 3, I'm going to need to see it again from them in Game 4. And I think the Rangers offense and their power play, which finally got shut down, will make their adjustments here in Game 4 and be a lot more effective. So I'm going to look toward the over 5.5 here, even though it fell short for the first time in this series in Game 3. Alex, what do you think here? A big Game 4 with the Devils and Rangers.
Yeah, and I missed most of what you said because I'm trying to deal with whatever this fucking asshole is inside of the chat that keeps spamming it. But anyway.
I'm trying to block him from StreamYard, and for some reason, it usually works, and it's not.
Yeah, so knock it the fuck off, whoever that is. But anyway, I like the Rangers here in this spot early. We talked about the biggest change in net, of course, the Akira Schmid playing for Vivita Vanacek. And like I said, there was not a massive difference, in my opinion, between the two. The difference was what was going on in front of them. The Devils, we saw them blocking shots, selling out, doing things they should have done, being responsible in defense in games 1 and 2. And they just happen to do it better. Credit the Pearl of Wisdom for calling this out. They play better when Schmid is in net. Doesn't mean that Schmid's a better goalie. I don't think that's the case, but they play better when he's in front, and that's what matters. They needed that spark and that wake-up call. So why they can't figure out how to do that with Vanacek and that, I don't know. But with that being said, the Rangers know the blueprint is they have to find a way to get back into the center of the ice. Most of their goals come from that high danger area between the circles right in front of the goaltender. They have to find a way to clear that spot out and establish dominance in front of Schmid. And I think once you can do that with this Ranger offense, that means that the floodgates can open up. So I like Rangers first period puck line. That's the only thing I'm going to roll with here. I might sprinkle a little bit more on that Rangers to win series 4-1 because I do have a quarter unit still floating in the balance with that after taking the shots in Game 3. I think Rangers bounce back in a big way and find a way to win this game.
All right, there we go. We'll try to do our best we can to deal with the spam shit going on in the chat, but we got to keep the show going. We'll deal with that. But all right, Devils Rangers. As far as props go in this Devils Rangers game, there's a few that stand out. I mean, for me, Adam Fox assist continues to be a good bet, and I think it's a good price again with that. For me, it's just wash, rinse, repeat with Chris Kreider. They can't contain him. They can't stop him. He scored the only goal for the Rangers in Game 3. Why not go back to the well? I mean, Chris Kreider has got the hot stick going right now for the New York Rangers. He's been absolutely spectacular on the power play as well, and I think you're going to see more of it here for the New York Rangers moving forward here, that he's going to continue to be, one of their catalysts offensively. This could be a game too where, after a game where the Rangers power play was kind of ineffective, there's a chance you're going to see them, snap out of it tonight. Remember, the Devils were struggling on the penalty kill in the first 2 games. So with some of these Rangers props tonight, I think maybe you look towards, maybe shots on goal, or not shots on goal. You look toward power play point props with some of these players tonight. Kreider, Zibanejad's been quiet in this series. I don't know if that'll continue. Vlad Tarasenko, he's actually had a really nice series. To sprinkle on the goal prop for him at plus 260, is something I might consider as well here in this game. So definitely some good options here as far as the player props go, especially if on the Rangers side. So we'll end up seeing if they are able to capitalize and have a little bit better time of it here with the power play tonight in this game, which again got shut down by the Devils in Game 3. All right, Toronto Maple Leafs, Tampa Bay Lightning. We've got minus 110. I like Shesterkin over saves as well tonight, because again, with New Jersey down 2-1, they've got to be aggressive, got to try to fire a lot of pucks at the net. For as much as it was vital for them to win Game 3 down 2-0, they got to have this one too, because if they go down 3-1 in this series, they're probably not going to have a great chance here to win this series. So I say come right back to the well here with Shesterkin saves props. We'll look in that direction. Toronto, Tampa Bay, we've got even money here, minus 110, 6.5 the total in this one. We said it after Game 3 with the Toronto victory in that game, saying, so many playoff seasons where the Leafs have just been so bad, in these playoff years where they've fallen short, they've been bounced in the first round. How many times have they outplayed the other team and lost? It's happened a lot in terms of their problems in the Stanley Cup playoffs over the years. And I think when you look at Saturday night, maybe it's a sign things are going to change this year, a sign that maybe, it's going to be a different result here for the Toronto Maple Leafs, because they got outplayed by the Tampa Bay Lightning. No question. Tampa Bay had the better of the play in Game 3 on Saturday night, but Toronto found a way to come out of it with the victory in overtime, 4-3. Even though they got outchanced, Samsonov was good in the last 2 periods, slamming the door shut and able to keep the Tampa Bay Lightning at bay, no pun intended. But, give Toronto credit, because those are the type of games that they usually end up losing in the playoffs, but they found a way to win the other night. This is a tricky game because Tampa Bay, pushes back strong. I keep thinking that, they're going to have a strong push, especially early in the game tonight. Like Tampa first period money line, I do like that a little bit here in this game. But I don't know if I trust Tampa fully for the entire game, because at the same point in time, you look back at Game 3, how much worse can Toronto play? And they still found a way to win. Whereas Tampa Bay, how much better could they play other than the puck going in the net more often than it did? That was a really solid game from their standpoint, carried the play, did a lot of good things, but unfortunately didn't get rewarded for it with the victory. So, I think when you look at this game tonight, there's a lot of room for improvement for Toronto, and I don't think it's quite as much that way for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I like Tampa early because I think they've got to show that in urgency right away, down 2-1. You don't want to go back to Toronto down 3-1 in this series. Now, I say that in spite of the fact Toronto lost a series up 3-1 against Montreal 2 years ago. So, but this is a different Toronto team. I truly believe that, if Tampa were to go down 3-1, I don't know if they're going to pull a Montreal, against this Leaf team like the Canadians were able to a couple of years ago. You'd like to think this team has grown from that experience. So this is a must almost for Tampa. I expect them to be strong early in the game in the first period. So I'm going to go with Tampa early, but that's it. Just a first period look on Tampa. But what I am also going to look at here is the same bets I've been looking at most of this series, and that's over. We've talked about repeatedly in this series how last year when they met, the first under in the series did not occur until Game 6, the first elimination game. Every game went over the total. I think you're going to see more of the same here with these two teams tonight. So I like the first period over 1.5 again, and I like the full game over 6.5. We'll do a split between the first period and the full game over here in Game 4 with the Leafs and Lightning. Alex, Game 4, Toronto, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I love both of those looks, but I'm going to be waiting to grab them in game, especially that first period over, because I agree with you. Tampa has to come out hot, right? Like this is basically where Florida was in Game 2 when I liked Tampa to close that series. I said if they don't win in that first period, they're going to lose the rest of the series. That's how I'm feeling about Tampa Bay. They don't come out of this first period with a lead, they're in trouble, and this series is probably most likely over. So I don't even want to take a shot with them on the first period money line. I want to just watch and see the first few minutes, jump in and grab first period over, grab full game over at better adjusted prices and better numbers. Hopefully grab a 6 or 5.5 on that full game total, and definitely try to get closer to plus money on the 1.5. But also, if Toronto's the team that's coming out with a lot of pace and a lot of pressure, that still will open the game up for Tampa Bay looking toward that over. So that's why I'm just staying away from sides, isolating totals, and then I want to just see where things are looking at before grabbing any of those totals. I may just bail and not take any of it, but I got a feeling we're going to see some good energy both ways early in this contest.
Well, Alex, like in the first period over here, in particular between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning, as far as props go in this game, if you're Tampa Bay, Braden Point, to me, he obviously could have scored the other night. That goal ended up getting taken away, but I think he is a good goal prop tonight. Like, I'd rather bet Braden Point to score a goal than Tampa Bay full game, quite honestly. I like Tampa in the first period. I'll get in on the Lightning in the first period, but I think if Tampa Bay puts that great effort forward tonight, which they should in a sense of urgency type of mode, down 2-1 in this series, then I think it's going to end up being Braden Point that ends up making an impact here tonight and finding the back of the net for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I'm going to end up going with Braden Point to score a goal here tonight for the Lightning. It's probably one of my favorite goal props on the card tonight, quite honestly, between these two teams. So I think that's a pretty good way to go here in this game as far as the props go, as Braden Point. On the Toronto side, I'm intrigued to maybe take a shot with Matthew Knies to break through. If you're watching this series minute by minute, you are definitely seeing that he right now is a guy that continues to make an impact. He's noticeable. He's making plays. He got his first point in the playoffs on the Nola Chari goal in Game 3. I mean, Matthew Knies is coming close to scoring, and he had a couple of great chances that got stopped by Vasilevsky in Game 3. So I definitely think that when you look at this game going forward tonight, that Matthew Knies definitely has an opportunity to make a big-time impact here for the Tampa Bay or for the Toronto Maple Leafs moving forward. So I think the goal prop, upwards of, it's plus 500 or more in some spots. Sprinkling on that's not a bad move at all. On the shots on goal front, this is a night where I would expect maybe, got something Stamkos and Point, but especially Kucherov, who's been a higher volume shot on goal type of player for the Lightning, maybe to be worth the look over shots on goal here in this game tonight. So keep that in mind. So I think it's a situation here where there's a bunch of different ways to, look at it here as far as the prop market goes in this one. All right, that is the East. The two games in Game 4. We've got two Western Conference Game 4s to talk about in just a moment. 250 live viewers on YouTube. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. Shout out to our podcast listeners as well. We'll be back in just a moment to talk Vegas, Winnipeg, and Colorado, Seattle, the two remaining games on this Monday slate, right after we hear from Gramco.
Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Gramco. Whether you or your team's game is on the field, screen, racetrack, court, or the ice, Gramco is for the game. Grown by farmers who spent years developing premium hemp genetics, Gramco provides customers with consistent quality Delta-8 THC products ready for any occasion. Gramco currently offers numerous Delta-8 products, including vape cartridges, disposable vapes, pre-rolls, gummies, wake and bake coffee, and more. Gramco offers an enjoyable, legal high delivered discreetly and directly to you. Gramco is also available at many American retailers as well. You can get the best Delta-8 cannabis products on the market shipped quickly and discreetly from Gramco. And if you visit www.thegramco.com, use promo code IceGuys, you will get 20% off of every order, and any order that's on the site over $50 will be shipped free with standard shipping. So live elevated with Gramco and check out their wonderful Delta-8 products today.
All right, it is back. Back we are, and we've got two Western Conference Game 4s coming up next here as we roll along here. We've got Game 4 in Winnipeg. What a crazy Game 3 it was between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Winnipeg Jets. And now we've got Game 4 tonight, and it's a huge game for the Jets. But what do they have left in their tank? Even money both sides here, minus 110, the total 5.5. I thought that was a brutal way to lose for the Jets, considering the comeback they made. They fought back. They lost Josh Morrissey, by far their best defenseman, early in that hockey game. And you end up looking at the way it played out, that they made that great comeback. They tie it up. It was just, an incredible rally from the Winnipeg Jets after they were down multiple goals in that game. But at the same point in time, you got to give Vegas credit too, because for blowing that lead, they put it back on the rails and they ended up winning in overtime to survive and end up taking the 2-1 series lead over the Winnipeg Jets. But you look at the reverberating effect of the Game 3 for the Winnipeg Jets, and the fact that they had all five of the defensemen, because they were playing with 5D after Morrissey left that game early. All the minutes they had to play. Yeah, they're going to have a sixth defenseman back tonight. I get it, with Morrissey out. But now you're going to have to ask for Dillon, Pionk, Schmidt, DeMello, Sandberg, Stanley, those six on the blue line to, pick up even more of the slack right now for this Winnipeg Jets team. It's not going to be easy right now for them. So I think when you look at this game here tonight between these two teams, how much is in the tank for some of these blue liners who had to log hard minutes, tough minutes, against the Vegas Golden Knights on Saturday in that double overtime game, that aren't exactly accustomed to playing that many minutes. I just don't know how they're going to hang in there. I mean, I think early in the game, Winnipeg obviously didn't have the start they wanted in Game 3. I think if you like Winnipeg in any form tonight, you're better off looking early rather than the full game. The way I just look at it, though, is other than maybe an advantage in net with Hellebuck, and you really can't even say that anymore in this series because of the fact that the Winnipeg Jets just haven't even gotten the best goaltending the last couple of games from Hellebuck. You look at on the blue line, Vegas is deeper. You look at up front, I think they've definitely had better situations in terms of their forward group. I mean, Jack Eichel, Mark Stone were excellent each of the last two games for the Vegas Golden Knights, and really other than Kyle Connor, and Scheifele finally scored late in Game 3, and they missed Nikolai Ehlers as well. Let's keep that in mind. He hasn't played yet in this series. He doesn't look like he's going to play tonight because he was not available in the morning skate this morning. So definitely we're looking at a situation where he's probably going to be out again. So tough times for Winnipeg. I mean, that was a tough one to let slip through your fingers. Not having Morrissey, your top defenseman, I think probably going to hurt them moving forward. So this is actually a game I don't have a strong take on. It's just the slightest of leans to Winnipeg in the first period, but I think Vegas wins the game. It's probably a Winnipeg first period, Vegas full game type of lean for me in this game tonight with the Golden Knights and the Jets. Total, I know the last two have gone over, but at the same time, I think this one could be an under, and we get back to some tighter checking, but I'm not ready to bet an under at 5.5 either. So, especially with a key blue liner missing for Winnipeg. So not a whole lot on this game other than maybe some props. I would look at maybe Eichel and Stone because they've been, they've been phenomenal. They've got it rolling right now for the Golden Knights. And then on the Winnipeg side, Kyle Connor scored in Game 3. I think he's a good goal prop tonight. He's got to be the guy that produces. His shots on goal, he's been flying over his shots on goal. That's probably a good look. Scheifele, same thing, over shots and to score a goal. It's got to fall on those two guys, Scheifele and Connor. They've got to be the two players that make an impact if the Jets are going to get back into this series. Alex, what do you think here? Game 4, Vegas, Winnipeg.
Yeah, this is if there was a way, if this is like a Word document, I would like to just highlight and copy everything except the very last goal, of course. That's the one thing I would like to copy and paste and put for this game, and of course have Winnipeg win instead of Vegas. But other than that, I would definitely love to see the first period over. That's the one thing I did bet. I think we're going to see that same kind of pace. I think we're going to see the same kind of atmosphere. And like I said, these two teams are going to feed off of each other's barns because they aren't scared of that atmosphere. They're welcoming that, if anything. And that's why we saw Vegas unfazed, even when, letting in the goal. That's why we saw Winnipeg able to come back after being down a couple of games. They weren't able to just take the air out of the building necessarily. And I think that's what's lending itself to seeing these higher scoring games. Vegas now 11-5 the last 16 games going back into the regular season in the first period over. So we're getting a great price with that still. I'm just going to ride with that for the first period over and hoping for a second overtime game because we got one down and we got two more to go to hit that 8-1 ticket.
All right, Alex liking the goals early in this game. Vegas and Winnipeg over the total here in the first period between these two teams. Should be interesting to see how Winnipeg responds. You just in terms of the gravity of that loss the other night. It was just tough when you battle back like that and you still end up losing in overtime after that great comeback. So interesting to see now what we get here from the Winnipeg Jets tonight in response. Braden Point day to day, JT. Let me just see if he because remember he did come back in game 3. Let me just see. He's day to day. Yeah, I'm actually seeing that right. Game time decision. Yeah, game time decision for tonight. But John Cooper said in the morning press conference that he's probably gonna play. Yeah, Adam Lowry. Thank you, Cuban Wayne Gretzky. I almost got through this game not mentioning Adam Lowry. Yeah, you have to. He's Mr. Clutch in the playoffs, and he scored now in multiple games in this series for the Winnipeg Jets. He's not getting priced, like other players on this team. He's still plus 300 to score a goal and only plus 105 to get a point. So, you're still getting absolutely terrific price with Adam Lowry, who's just been sensational. I mean, we've talked ad nauseum how important he is at playoff time. Big body presence, physical, goes to the front of the net, excellent at the face-off circle, excellent defensively, plays in all situations for you, and Rick Bowness knows how important he is. So, yeah, there's no doubt, I think, when you look at Adam Lowry and what he's done in this series, he's absolutely worth a look here as far as the situation is concerned with the goal prop tonight as well, because, again, he just keeps on cashing in here at this point for the Winnipeg Jets. All right, next up, we've got our final game of this West first round game 3. YouTube's got to do a better job of screening people and helping us out here. We're trying to block this relentless spammer here on our YouTube chat, and just keeps on going and creating new nicknames, and it's ridiculous. Like we're trying to hit remove and block, and I don't know how the fuck he's still here. I mean, they got to do a better job of cleaning this up. But Colorado and Seattle, we've got Colorado minus 150, road favorites here, 6 the total in this game. I think when you look at it here, Colorado and Seattle, this is another one where Seattle's got to show up early, have a good start. I thought they did in game 3, but all of a sudden there's Nathan McKinnon just basically taking over and being in a situation where, he just wouldn't be denied. He was great in game 4 for the Colorado Avalanche. And it'll be interesting to see how he fares tonight in this one. But yeah, he took over the game and Seattle punched back. I'll tell you what, in the second period, they tied that game. It ended up being 3-3. And then there's Nate McKinnon in particular, and Rantanen for that matter. Great in the third period, rallied the troops after Seattle tied the game. And then Colorado basically took over from there and ended up taking game 3. The other night, 6-3. So we'll see now if the Colorado Avalanche can seize control of this series. We kind of do think they're the better team, and they're going to eventually win this series. But and since game 2, the third period, they look like they're a lot better. They've looked more like the Avalanche we saw last year en route to winning the Stanley Cup. So it'll be interesting to see now if this continues for the Avalanche tonight, and they can build off that game 3 performance. You know what I am going to do here, though? I don't know if I trust Seattle to win the hockey game tonight, but, I think after what I saw in game 3 of this series, the team total for Seattle, you got to lay some juice at around minus 145, minus 150, over 2.5. I think when you look at it here, it's definitely not a bad option. I think the Kraken might be able to get to 3 goals tonight, because this is a game that if they don't win it, it's curtains. Series will be over. They won't come back down 3-1 to this Colorado Avalanche team. So kind of like that look on the Kraken team total in this game. And I think it's a safer route where, they could, because I don't fully trust them to win the game, but I do trust the effort to be at an all-time high, trying to avoid a 3-1 series. And let's be honest, they've been able to skate nicely with Colorado in this series, where, the pace, the way Colorado plays, it hasn't been, something that's totally affected this, this team at all. They've been able to skate with Colorado. They've been able to keep pace. They just cannot give up those devastating odd man rush breakaway situations that they did to Colorado in Game 3 that the Avs took advantage of. So I think Seattle does have a pushback. I think they're competitive in this game. I don't trust them fully to win it, but I think the way I'd rather approach it is that over 2.5 with Seattle toward the team total. We did finally see an over cash for the first time in this all season with Colorado, Seattle. All the games, regular season and playoffs between these two teams had gone under. We finally saw an over in Game 3. This game, I'm not sure where it goes, but I lean to that same thought process with the over here in Game 4, but I don't love it. Alex, what do you think here? Game 4, Colorado, Seattle.
It's funny because when doing some playoff previews and going through the series, we kind of thought this would be the weakest of the series, right? Like, it wouldn't be too exciting compared to some of the rivalry matchups and different things. But this has been a hell of a series. It's been a lot of fun. And the profit that I've been able to cash with is the first period over. They said full game over coming in that last game. I don't know if we're going to see a lot of scoring throughout. I can see this one being one of those games where we see the goals early and then things come slowing down a bit. We see the goaltenders make big saves, just like we did in Game 2, where we saw Grubauer and Georgiev having this kind of a duel back and forth, and that was fun to see. And we saw great offensive chances both ways. It wasn't just the goaltending and defensive clinic; it was just good hockey being played by all on the ice. So this is one I'm just gonna go with the first period over. I laid $1.15. I would go up to $1.20, $1.25. Anything higher than that, play it in game, of course. Go over the 1.5 and then just lay back and try to pick off some live spots. Didn't do as well with the live games in this one like I did it in games 1 and 2, but hoping to get back on track with that and just try to figure out where the pace of this game is going to be.
Yeah, for me, this is one of those games, too, where, like I say, the team total's mildly appealing. It's not going to be a significant bet for me with the Kraken team total. I think you're just as well if you think Seattle's going to have a strong pushback to try to tie the series and find the back of the net. You got to at some point think McCann and Dunn are going to be two guys that get going for Seattle. I mean, McCann has had chances, but for the first time, he's kind of been stymied here as of late. So, but those are the guys that are going to have to get it done for Seattle. Yeah, Nichushkin missed Game 3 due to personal reasons. We'll see if he's back tonight. I mean, for Colorado right now, it's tough to bet props other than Nate McKinnon and Rantanen right now because they've pulled so much of the weight here for Colorado in this series. But I'll give you a couple that are worth a look. 2 on the blue line. Bo Byram to get a point, -110. And Devon Taves. I mean, his point prop just continues to come through. And it's only -122 at FanDuel for Devon Taves to get a point. And these two guys are more than capable of it on the back end. They both play power play minutes, Taves and Byram. Even with Makar back, they're still able to chip in offensively. Byram's got a point in each game so far in this series. And Taves, Game 1, he didn't have a point, but he's got 3 points in the last 2 games and had 2 assists in the game against Seattle in Game 3. So, I think when it's all said and done, those are good looks here for me as far as Colorado on the blue line. Both a real good high probability they both find the score sheet and get a point tonight. Bo Byram for the Avs as well as Devon Taves. Again, very undervalued, I think, with their point props right now. All right, great stuff. That is the Monday NHL slate. We apologize, by the way, to everyone in the chat that's had to deal with the ruckus there. We've tried to handle it the best we can, but definitely we appreciate you guys hanging in there. Hopefully that's just a one-day occurrence with that. Hit the like button. We appreciate it. 265 live viewers on YouTube. Shout out to our podcast listeners as well. And a reminder, check out patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month. Goalie charts, totals charts, power ratings, daily Ice Guys show betting card, bonus content, and more. Sign up and subscribe at patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month.
Also, check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. Got 20% off everything. It's until Wednesday. We got some new stuff for the summer. We got new stuff. I mean, we got all the great classic stuff as well. Everything there. Go to iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
And, of course, the Ice Guys Stanley Cup Playoffs live betcast. Our next betcast tomorrow night on Tuesday, April 25th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. A nice small 3-game slate tomorrow night. We'll have Islanders Hurricanes, which is an elimination game. Islanders facing elimination. We've got Stars and Wild tomorrow night. And, of course, a huge Game 5 with the Kings and the Oilers, which has been just an incredible series. We'll have all three of those games tomorrow night on the BetCast, so make sure you join us. Live betting and commentary with me, Alex, and all of our viewers and listeners joining us as guests. And if you're one of those viewers and listeners that want to join us on the BetCast as guests, make sure you DM me at Bobano on Twitter or email bobano350@gmail.com, and we will send you the link for the Ice Guys Stanley Cup Playoffs live betcast before it gets underway Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you join us for another Stanley Cup Playoffs live betcast tomorrow night. All right, we'll be back to wrap up the show with best bets right after we hear from Manscaped. Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the promo code ICEGUYS. That's promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, it's about 14 million balls that you can preserve. The Performance Package 4.0 is the complete accessory package to take care of everything that is required. You've got, of course, the Lawnmower 4.0. Takes care of your facial hair and among other things. You've got, of course, the Weed Whacker. I'm approaching 40. Nose hair has become a major issue. It pisses the hell out of me. I need to take care of that shit, and the Weed Whacker can help you do that. Both of these products, waterproof and a 4000K LED spotlight for a more precise shave. And you'll also be able to take care of those delicate areas with the ball toner, with the ball deodorant, keep you smelling good, looking good, and feeling good down in the nether regions. This complete Performance Package 4.0 will take care of everything for you, for all you guys out there, and it's courtesy of our good friends at manscaped.com. So get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And use promo code ICEGUYS. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right, it is time now for Best Bets here to wrap it up for this Monday edition of the show. By the way, we've got our good friend Straight Bet Ben joining us again tomorrow on the show. So that'll be fun having him on the show. And we've got a couple of player guests lined up for Wednesday and Thursday as well. So looking forward to that. Alex, what do you like here for Best Bet tonight?
Yeah, we're going to go with Vegas Winnipeg. Go with that first period over 1.5. I got it minus $1.15. That's still available at BetMGM and a couple other books as well. Like I said, expect the same kind of frenetic pace we saw in Game 3, and I'm expecting to see at least a couple of goals. We should have had 5 goals, honestly, in that first period last time, but we got 3. So if we get 3 again, I'll take that as well. Let's go with Jets, Golden Knights. First period over 1.5 minus $1.15. That's my best bet.
There you go. It cashed on Saturday, and Alex is looking for it to cash again here tonight. Vegas, Winnipeg, over 1.5 first period for his best bet on this Monday card. Mine is going to be, I'm going to go Devils Rangers over 5.5, minus 115, minus 120 is what we're looking at. Again, we finally had our first under in this series in Game 3. I'm not convinced we see that tonight. I'm not convinced the Devils defense nor Akira Schmid play as well. I think the Devils, too, are due to finally have a game where they score a few more goals than they have in this series. And I certainly think the Rangers' offense is going to come to life tonight once again, make their adjustments after the first time in this series that their offense and especially their power play had kind of been stymied. I think you'll see them have a much better showing offensively tonight as well. So Devils, Rangers, over 5.5, minus 120 for my best bet for this Monday card. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it very much. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Monday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will be back tomorrow, a double dose of the Ice Guys as usual on a Tuesday. The Daily Show at 2 p.m. Eastern with special guest Straight Bet Ben. And then, of course, the live Stanley Cup Playoffs BetCast tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Join us for a massive Tuesday right here on the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now.